Hello, welcome. I'm Valerie McLean.
I'm Sam Stubbs.
We are the authors of the Tales of the Seventh Empire trilogy. We're happy to say trilogy now. We have some fun things to talk about in just a minute. But welcome to our new YouTube channel. We are really excited to have the opportunity to talk with our readers and our friends and fans about all sorts of stuff. So we're going to launch right in. It's been a while.
Yes, a long while.
A long while. And really candidly, as Sam and I have talked about starting this YouTube channel, we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of reach out to our readers with a bit of an apology. We have not been very communicative in the last couple of years, and we wish that we'd done a little better.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Yes. We have been working very hard on book 3. It has taken a long time, a lot longer than either of us ever anticipated. And book 3 was supposed to come out last year. Both COVID and delays with our publishing house have put that behind. And so we didn't communicate that very well, and we're sorry, but we're back. We are really gung-ho about book 3 and about some other really great fun things that we have planned going forward. And so we wanted to share that with you and promise to do better and communicate.
That now, or wait until later into the video, but we've got something to tease and share with you. Valerie, do you have it with you?
There we go. Yes.
Do you have something that we can... we have something that we are going to tease for you. Speaking of being back, we have something we would like to tease.
How teasery do I get to be? Is this too much of a tease?
Maybe a little bit more. Okay. There we go. All right, that's good enough.
Yay.
Okay.
All right. Book 3.
we have our proof copies of book 3. And we're excited because they will be dropping very soon.
We are going to have a release date for you soon. We wanted to make sure that it was absolutely set in stone this time before we announced it. So
no more wavering.
No, we're going to make sure that it's really coming out this time. Once we announce it is going to happen. So the good thing is it's in our hands. We have our proof copies, and we have copies on coming, and a release date coming very soon. So there's nothing I think more exciting than holding this in my hands. It makes it feel real.
It's been a long, as Valerie alluded to, it's been a long many years from when we started, and all of the bumps and breaks in the road as we tried to get it done. But it's been really fun to work together. And we're really, really excited to share it with you guys. So
excited.
We're excited to see the community feedback and see what you guys think of it. So we will let you know. As Valerie said, we will let you know as we get further closer to that time. But that date is coming soon. So rest assured, it's coming very soon.
Yes. Sam, should we talk about the new second editions that are also coming?
Yes, please. Why don't you go ahead and introduce them for us?
All right. So as you all know, book 3's been a significant gap between when book 2 came out and the soon arrival. Almost 10 years, not quite 10 years, but 9 years. And so
a lot of life has happened for us between those years.
A lot of life has happened. And both of us have really, obviously we have matured as people, but it's obvious how much we have matured as writers in that time. Just the writing of book 1 and book 2, we grew a lot, but also everything that's come between those and this third book. So as we have looked back at the first 2 books, can I be super honest here? I sometimes cringe when I reread book 1.
we were young, naive authors back then.
We were first time authors, and honestly, I look back and just the way I love the story. Like it has nothing to do with the story or the characters or how we developed that. It's entirely to do with how it's written.
Yeah, prose
Just
mostly. Yeah.
yeah, word choice or the way we structured things, or just the way of maybe retouching the first two books. And I think my publisher at first thought I meant like just fixing typos and stuff. But I was like, no, I want to do more than that. And to my surprise, our publisher was not totally on board with this once we kind of talked through what we really wanted to do. You know, not changing the story, not changing what happens at all. So, coming ahead of the release of book 3, we are going to be releasing the second editions of book 1 and book 2. So the first editions will no longer be available for sale. Everything's going to be second edition going forward. So if you're going to be reading or rereading the first 2 books ahead of the release of book 3, then we want you reading the new editions because they're so much better.
Yeah. So in line with what Valerie is saying here, in addition to that, we will also be doing, leading up to book 3 and also to the release of these re-release, we will be releasing a giveaway or doing a giveaway of these revised ebooks. So look forward to that. We will get you more details as we go forward with that. But this is kind of as a way to say thank you, we're sorry, and also as a to kind of throw a bone to those who have purchased the books, who have been our fans for a while, as an opportunity to get the new content at no cost to you. So
yeah, we don't want you to feel like you have to buy the books again when you already have. But
right.
If you're
Exactly.
going to be rereading, if you're going to be doing a reread ahead of book 3 coming out, we want you reading the new versions.
So we'll make sure that we give everybody a chance to get those. So yeah, so that's exciting on the way of announcements. And then as Valerie pointed out, we're going to be doing these videos more regularly. So we're still trying to negotiate what schedule we want to try for these, but we would like to have more feedback and more connection with you guys as a community, and hear what your thoughts are, and talk about things that you guys are interested in or have questions about. So in light of that, Valerie, why don't you introduce kind of what our next phase of this video, or what our next idea was for this?
Yeah, so we really look forward to just talking, just having a chance to kind of talk about writing or books or really whatever. And as we go forward, we love topics from you guys, stuff that you would like to hear us talk about, or just fun things that we can shoot the breeze with you here on YouTube.
Yep.
So.
Yep, exactly. So for this particular, this is just gonna be a kind of a quick video for us today, but we thought, as way of introduction to ourselves, and also in light of us coming back after years of working on things, we thought we would actually talk about how do we kind of kick in those creative juices again after having been absent, or even just when you're trying to get through a particularly difficult section of either due to life or just what you're writing. When you're struggling with creativity, what are ways that you can gain inspiration and kind of turn on the works for creative flow?
I think it's especially poignant coming here on the heels of COVID. I think for a lot of people,
true.
COVID has been really brutal, and
mentally and physically. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have the Brandon Sandersons of the world who are like, "Ooh, yay! I'll just write all these new things," and then the rest of us are like, "I've been barely functioning for the last 2 years."
Right. No, I think that's great. So with that in mind, I will start off this little discussion, and I'm actually going to ask Valerie, my co-author here, what are the ways that you found most inspirational, or what things did you find most inspirational as you tried to get back into a mindset of creativity or creation?
The wonderful thing about having our partnership is that we bounce ideas off of each other.
It's true. We're very
And
bouncy.
we're so bouncy. And like, if I didn't have you, Sam, I would have to have somebody, to really kind of bounce ideas off of, because that's really
That's a
where
likewise for me as well.
yeah. I mean, I feel like being able to sit and talk through stuff is so helpful for me. And with that in mind, I would just say so Sam and I recently started a new project, which I will not discuss at present, but will soon.
Another teaser.
I know, but that's it. Seriously, that's all. But as we were getting started on this new project, I was really having trouble kind of getting into it. It's like I wanted to work on it and whatever, but it's like, how do I even get started? And the first thing Sam did was recommend a movie. He's like, you need to go watch this. And I was like, do I have to? And he's like, I won't talk with you until you watch this movie.
I wasn't quite that harsh, but yes.
That's how it came across. But I did. So I sat down.
She did her homework.
I did my homework. I sat down on a Friday night. I was like, all right, I got to do this. And I watched the movie, and I'm so glad that I did. And maybe we could talk about that another time, the movie. But watching it started this conversation. We met the next day, and we started talking about these different facets of the movie and blah, blah, blah. And it was like just the act of having a sort of,
in addition to us talking, what other like external sources do you find inspirational or re-energizing or uplifting in whatever way? What are kind of your go-to external sources that you go to for creativity?
When I'm just like first starting up, trying to generate ideas, I usually turn back to favorite books. It's not always a new book that helps me. It's when I go back to one that I love. And I wouldn't even say that I'm super cognitively thinking, what do I like about this book? But there is this feeling of like returning to a story that I love that kind of helps me feel like working on my own.
Yeah, very much so. I almost feel like sometimes what we like is kind of is almost deeper than we can even completely understand, like why we like certain things or how certain things kind of inform our character, even not just our creativity, but even what we value, who we are. Those kinds of we all have favorite authors, we all have favorite stories, and that's really what I think it comes down to. Is I've learned more and more that people really are story oriented creatures.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to discover the stories that I think really make us who we are. Because if you get to those stories, there's something in those core stories that you just really value that are really what are going to spark your creativity. So it's not just a matter of, you often hear, oh, read everything. And I'm certainly not saying that don't do that. That there is some value to that. But it's not just read everything. It's find, like, really think about and really try to feel out what are the stories that truly mean something to you.
Right.
Because those are going to be an endless well of inspiration. For some people, those might be religious stories. For some people, they might be just classic literature. There's a number of classic books that I like to go back to. Dickens being one of them. Dickens is one of my favorite classical authors. Yeah, and actually, so with that, there are core, I don't know how else to say this, there are core stories, I think, that make us who we are, and you're going to find infinite inspiration in those. So keep those in mind and keep feeling those out as you try to read everything.
Right. So to add to that, once I'm going, I feel like music also really helps me get into the
A
zone.
genre specifically for you?
Uh, I go to YouTube, honestly, and I Google epic music.
Well, YouTube is
I
an YouTube has an endless variety of.
Yes. I posted on our blog a few months ago the playlist that I have put together as I was writing book three. We have, unsurprising, I think, some epic battle scenes and whatnot at the end of book three. And I had this battle playlist essentially that I listened to just to get the feel of it. And sometimes I sometimes wonder if it will feel the same reading it without the music in the background.
Because you have this mid vision in your head. No,
Yeah.
it's I almost think that music, almost as much as stories, are. I mean, you see, if you think about culture, like the word culture, the two things I think that people come up with in people's mind are stories, music, and maybe food. Right?
I
It's
was
kind of
gonna
like
say food.
it's like music, stories, and food are kind of like the pillars of like culture, people's cultures and backgrounds that you come up with. That actually might be interesting. I wonder if food could be a source of inspiration. But but kind of with going along with those first two, I think it's because those first two, in a way, music. I think music that's good music, also is kind of tells a story. Maybe not as overtly as the words of a story, but I think all of the good, like the really great music that we listen to, the ones that actually mean something to you, I think there's usually somewhere between the notes there's a story.
I think you can absolutely feel emotion through music.
Mm.
I mean, you think about the great like movie soundtrack scores, that Star Wars, for instance. We recently did a Star Wars marathon, so my children got to watch Star Wars for the first time. And
Nice.
just the feel, I mean, when Duel of the Fates gets going, you can think what you want about the prequel trilogy, but Duel of the Fates is like one of the best pieces of music out there.
I would agree. Well, I mean, anything that John Williams produced writes
Right, right.
is
I mean,
fantastic. I
all of
mean,
the
he's
music's incredible.
all of those classic movies that make up our childhood that were composed by John Williams. I think all
Yes.
of those echo within us.
You
But yeah,
feel something.
mm,
You do.
and I think that that's a hallmark of great music, is that it will, coming back to the theme of what we're talking about here, great music will always inspire you to some kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So
So let
yeah.
me turn this on you, Sam,
All right.
because
So okay,
I
I feel like I've been talking, I didn't interrupt you, but yeah, go ahead.
no, so I got to preface this a little for
Okay.
those who are listening. Sam is the source of the creativity in our co-authorship here.
Well, okay,
Like,
hang on. Caveat there. That is not 100% true. I I am I I definitely help a lot with like some of the world building aspects. But
oh, don't sell yourself short. I
Valerie is just as much a font of the creative process as I am. So don't sell yourself short either.
But this is how it goes, right? I get to a point where I'm like, gosh, I can't like picture this. I can't put this together in my head. And I cannot do this by myself. I go to Sam and I'm like, Sam, what do I do with this? What do and inevitably he's like, oh, well, what if you do, and he just comes up with these creative things that I would never have come up with in a million years, but that are perfect. And so I want to know where that comes from. Like,
I would say, okay, story time. Speaking of stories, story time here. Um when I was young, um my mother when my mother was pregnant with my little sister, she had she had really rough pregnancies. But my little sister, which was the last of our children, the children of our family, that one was particularly difficult. And I was still kind of a little. I was very. I was 4 or 5, still at home, not at school. kind of left to my own, because my dad had to go to work, kind of left to my own devices. Um, I remember at this time, and because my mom wasn't able, she was not completely bedridden, but large chunks of the day she would stay in bed. Um, and so as a way of entertaining me at night, my dad would actually make up stories and he would tell me stories at night. And he made these series of stories. And I think my dad really understood my heart of who I was because the name of the stories were the Samuel J. Explorer stories. And the main character was Samuel J. Explorer. And true to the stories, I've always had kind of the heart of an explorer in me. Every time we go somewhere new, my wife and I, it's always, oh, where can we go? I want to go try something new. I want to go try new food or whatever. So my dad would tell these stories, and they really kind of sparked, I don't know how else to explain it. They kind of sparked this idea of wonder and exploration in me. And so I would say for those of you, particularly those of you who are interested in writing fantasy, but even any stories of fiction, I would say the thing that helped me the most is kind of developing that idea of exploration, taking on, trying to reinvigorate the idea of childlike wonder. And I know that sounds grandiose, and I'm not trying to mean it in a big grand way, but in like an actual specific way. I think it's important to try to reclaim some of that childlike wonder that I think is in all of us. As you go through new experiences, or as you're trying to create new worlds or write new stories, the fun part about writing stories for me is the exploration, exploring the world, exploring the people, exploring the cultures of the people, exploring the characters themselves. What makes them tick? Who are they? It's that element of exploration. So put on your explorer's hat. Be an explorer. Always be willing to explore. And in that same light, I would say, when it comes to just like outside of writing, be an explorer in your everyday life. You're going to find more inspiration outside of you than you realize. They often say there's like we've already heard the cliche, there's nothing new under the sun. There's some truth to that, in that all of our stories, I think, have a lineage back through other stories, which have lineage through other stories. And so as you're going out and you're like, again, coming back to the idea of like reading a bunch, and as you're going back to those books and music and stories that really inspire you, continually try to see it with that childlike wonder. And as you explore your day-to-day life, I think that's what really inspires me. Just the act of exploration makes me want to explore more. And that is what creative writing is. If nothing, it's exploration.
So as a follow-up question, of course, you have lived in Malaysia
Yes.
for a period of time.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that influenced your creativity?
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a heavy question. Religious sabbatical to Southeast Asia for 2 years. Well, I guess saying that experience changed my life would be it would be kind of an understatement. It forced me to look at things differently, and I think that's true. I think that's true of anybody who travels or really reads or studies about other cultures or other peoples. it really kind of opens your eyes to different ways people think, different areas. And for me, it was very different geographically, just even too. Like I grew up here, out here, Western United States, Utah, dry, humid, mountainous desert. Malaysia is a island, oceanic, tropical climate. So even just that, there was a physical aspect of exploration going back to that. But just learning, immersing myself in a different culture opened my eyes to the excitement of what can be, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Going back to food, obviously new tastes, new sights, new sounds, new types of music, and new stories. One of the things, and those some of you may not know this, some of the characters in our books are inspired by folk tales that I learned when I was down there in Malaysia. Specifically the valiant hero Hanuzan. I took when we were creating him, a lot of my voice and opinion about the character was informed by the stories of Hang Tuah, which is kind of he's a folk hero, in Malaysian folk hero. So learning about those stories and kind of hearing about their own mythologies really was an inspiration to me.
An inspiration that I draw on constantly.
Well, we don't want to take this up. We don't want to take too much of your time, and we don't want to make this go on forever. Valerie, what last ideas or thoughts did you want to say as we close out of here?
I guess I would just say that, if you have a creative endeavor, whether it's writing or another outlet, ultimately, you just got to do it. We sit and we talk about how do I get started, and that stuff's really important. But it comes down to just kind of digging in your heels and doing it. I was really thinking about that after this past week, because a week ago I was feeling super inspired. We had talked and I was all gung ho about this new project that we're working on, and I worked really hard for a couple of days, and then I had a couple of busy days with work and stuff, and I was like, well,
coming back to it is always like an uphill battle. Yeah,
it was, and I was really dragging for a couple of days, and then I thought about this conversation that we had kind of been planning to have, and was like, okay, so how do I get going? And I'm like, I just gotta do it. I just gotta do it. And so it was sitting down, a couple of days in a row, I wrote 300, 400 words, which is not very much for me, but I did it. And slowly it was, doing the work ultimately is just the most important part, even if it's terrible. And this is one of the reasons I love NaNoWriMo, actually, is there's this expectation of you just write, and you can go back and edit and fix it later. But if you get into the habit of writing, the consistency is very valuable.
Yeah, I was just about to add my 2 cents to finish that out, that thought out. A thinker that I've been following recently basically has told me, this is more an aspect of life as in a greater whole, but I think it is very pertinent to writing and creativity. He basically said, do what you can, but always do it. Right? Yeah. Like, we're not Brandon Sanderson. I don't know that I will ever be as prolific as Brandon Sanderson. He's incredible. Like, he can write unendingly. You don't need to compare yourself to Brandon Sanderson. Maybe you can only do 2 paragraphs today, or maybe you can only do, 1 sentence today. Whatever you can do it. right?
Right.
It's like you don't, that's the key, right?
Yeah. I have a daily to-do list that I like check stuff off. And on my dailies it says write, even if just a little.
Even if just a little. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for your time and for tuning in with us.
Yeah.
We sure
Thanks.
appreciate you guys as a community, and look forward to, we'll be doing more of these. Valerie, anything you'd like to say closing out?
Just that we are really excited. We've got some really fun stuff we're going to be sharing with you over the next couple of months. So we hope that you'll tune in again.
All right, you guys take care.